Hello, this is Rob Mazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Life by Mazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible. Any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At Life by Mazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. All right, good day, everybody. I am going to start this podcast with an experience I had this evening while I was trying to meditate and do a little physical self-healing. And I'm not sure where it's going to go after that. As usual, I don't script my stuff, so it's never really going to be written out anyway. However, I have a lot of ideas and things over the last week and a half or so that I have been thinking about, been hearing, been experiencing, been researching since the last time I did a podcast. So probably going to roll a lot of it up into this podcast. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that meditation experience that I had just a bit ago. And I do like to meditate. If you've listened to my podcasts at all, you know that meditation is really fundamental to my experience. It really brings forth a lot of peace, brings forth a lot of knowledge, experience, information, things that I would not necessarily ever be able to do or know in my physical experiences, so to speak. It kind of takes you away or carries you outside of yourself, which we're going to talk a little bit about that too, or who you perceive as yourself, your body, your humanness, your meat suit that you walk around with that navigates you through the experience. Anyway, I was using my infrared machine that I have, and I was using it because I have this interesting injury in my left lower rib cage that happened during soccer about a week and a half ago, well, 2 Sundays ago. And it was because I got crushed, took some really hard hits as a goalkeeper many times. One such time I came under diving for the ball, and on top of me landed a nice sized body that crushed me pretty good. And so I didn't feel it in my ribs so much right away. I felt it in my leg initially because I got a bruise the size of New York there now. But over the next few days, it showed up, and it definitely takes my breath away. Could be a cracked rib, could be a pulled muscle, who knows. But it continues, even though I played yesterday. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. Kind of stubborn like that. Anyway, I decided to combine this infrared treatment, which usually goes 20 to 30 minutes, and use it as a meditation time as well. So the other thing I like to do, I think I mentioned it in a podcast or two recently, is I have found some rocks, just plain old ordinary rocks, around the camp where I'm stationed at when I go out hiking, and I keep them in a bowl. And what I like to do, at least more recently, I like to do, or have been doing, is that I take these rocks and I place them strategically on my body, like somebody might do with specialized crystals, very specific crystals. I know a lot of people that like to do that. and they put specific types of crystals in specific areas of the body for very specific reasons. Well, that's a lot of specificity there, huh? Anyway, I just use mine as an intuitive approach, and I just listen to where my body feels like they need to be placed. And so what I did tonight is I put the pads on for the infrared machine on my back and on my abdomen so that they kind of cross paths with the energy to maybe figure out where the healing needs to happen. And it is a really cool way of getting healing. It works really well. And so I placed 2 rocks on my root level and 1 at my sacral level, sort of like a little triangle of energy there. And then the same at my shoulders, which was a little bit above my heart chakra, well, between my heart chakra and my throat chakra, and then 1 on my third eye. So another triangle, I guess, of energy. And I don't know why I chose that. I just following my intuition and went with that. Something about putting a stone or a rock or crystal or something like that on your third eye is just tremendous. You should try it. It's kind of cool. It really takes your meditation to a very, very high level, actually. It took a while for the pads to warm up. You feel warmth. I'm sure the effectiveness starts earlier than that. I know it does. But as I was getting to the point where they were getting to full speed or full power, if you will, it gradually happens, I noticed that the rocks that I had placed around my body were also putting out the same energy, or at least it felt like it was the same energy. It was the same effect that I felt from the pads were happening through the rocks that I had placed around me. And I thought that was a little strange, but I paid attention to it, probably more than meditating, because I found it to be a very odd scenario. Not that I don't believe in something like that. It's called entrainment, where you have a bunch of things that are different frequencies, so to speak, and you play those frequencies in proximity of each other, and they will eventually tune to the same frequency. It's called entrainment. I'm sure there's other definitions for entrainment. Actually, I know there are. I was looking up the definition earlier. And so these rocks were entraining to the same frequency of the infrared machine. And I thought, wow, I'm getting more bang for my buck. But I think that also points to a fact that we as human beings are really becoming, in a lot of ways, disconnected from Mother Earth. And I say that because if you do your research and you look at the frequencies that the Earth puts out naturally, not unnaturally through our technology, but naturally, it greatly affects our energy in the human body, or any body that lives on this planet. But it does effectively entrain with us to make sure that we stay in balance and stay in coherence and allow a proper and optimal functioning of the human body. And what a better way, if you ask me, to connect with the energy of the earth than through using rocks or crystals or whatever, things that come from the earth directly. Granted, they are separated in some way from the earth because now they're a rock. Now they're in my cup, in my RV here with me. They are separate, but they are one and the same. So as human beings are definitely a complex set of energies that are all wound together to create a you. We'll kind of come back to that perhaps. But a rock is the same type of thing, although it is a lot more dense and is a lot more stable and a lot more continuous. It does not change much. It's very, very slow for change. The degradation or the breakdown of a rock over time takes a tremendous amount of time as compared to a human body breaking down. So it has that longevity and it has that mark of the earth that it carries with it. And why not use something like that if that's the energy that we were born to match with? Why aren't we doing that more? I was explaining this to my mentor the other day about the usage of rocks in my meditation, and she had never really thought about doing that actually, and thought it was a really cool idea. As long as she's been around doing this, I was amazed that it was something she hadn't thought about, or had thought about in a while at least. Why aren't we connecting like we should? Well, I tell you, if I go outside my RV and I want to put my feet in the grass, it is not the grass to put my feet in. It's full of stickers and ants and bugs and all kinds of crawly things. And, I'm not going to experience that connection very well. And so when we do have some type of harmonious connection with the earth, let's just face it should be relatively calm and it should be relatively simple. And if you're not comfortable with it, like outside of my RV, then, we should find other alternative ways to do that. And I do believe, though, that we are really not looking at ourselves and helping ourselves like we should. Because if you look at the human body, we are just almost an infinite amount of possibilities all wound up into this form that we consider us to be us. Every time we look in the mirror, we see a face that we think is familiar, we think is us. But is that really us? Is it just a makeup of a bunch of atoms, a bunch of possibilities, in the wave function collapsing because we're observing it? Who knows, right? Human body is so amazingly put together and so amazingly complex that it's hard to imagine that there's not something or someone or some being or some God or some universal energy, artificial intelligence, whatever, is actually putting us into an experience. Because the experiences we have are really interesting. For some reason, I felt like I needed to look at the problems with human memory. I know that human memories are not perfect. They are constructed within our mind, our brain, based on past experiences and in commonality, and a lot of gaps get filled in. And our memories are not necessarily always accurate. I can tell you that mine are not, because when I think I remember things well, along comes a brother of mine that will tell me, well, no, as an observer of your life, that's not how it went. So we also experience our memories way different than other people do. And so I think memories are very difficult to believe in and to really trust in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that all of them are bad. I'm just saying I think that there's a problem with the storage and the re-imaging of those memories and bringing them back up into the conscious mind. Because the conscious mind is only like 5 to 10% of what we are, and it's what we think we have control of our life with. But it really is deeper conscious, unconscious, and subconscious parts of our mind. And really our experiences come through everything that happens within our brain, our mind, or wherever that is coming from. Could it be coming from the brain, or could it be coming from outside of us and we're just a receiver? Oh my, I don't know if I'm answering questions or presenting more questions actually, right? But as I was researching that, or putting it into the Bing Google, or Bing search, sorry, not Bing Google, the two different things, but into the Bing search on my computer, what I came up with was actually memory problems within a computer. And I'm going to read this to you, which I don't read a lot of stuff, but it's better said than I would say it. So I somehow landed on hard faults. So it says hard faults in memory occur when the operating system needs to retrieve memory pages from the disk instead of from the physical memory, or the RAM, which is random access memory, right? This typically happens when an application's required memory is not currently located in the random access memory and has been moved to the hard drive, or subconscious in this case, necessitating a search for the absent memory on the disk. Excessive hard faults can lead to performance issues, as the system may experience delays while accessing data from the disk rather than from the faster random access memory. Now, how many times have you tried to remember something? There's this word, you know what it is, and it's just like it's escaping you. And, and eventually, if you wait long enough, that memory or that idea or that thought that you're looking for will surface. But our mind has to go into the recesses of the memory banks, our subconscious, in the deep caverns of our unconscious mind, wherever they're stored. But that's the way we understand the human mind right now. That could also be something different than that. But if you look at memories and who you are, is that really who you are? Are you really who you think you are? Are you remembering yourself through time as you go to sleep? Do you leave yourself? Do you separate from yourself, and then when you're reinserted back into your body and your mind, you wake up and you're having to piece it all back together again because your mind went into reset mode, reorganization mode, optimizing your brain, your memories, your operating system. And then when it comes back online, boom, sometimes you wake up and you have no idea where you are, what year it is, what time it is, what's going on. And we've all done that. We take, a few minutes before we realize that, oh, I just took a nap and, I have a meeting in 10 minutes, so I guess I better get myself together. And so I think a lot of this stuff, or these things that I'm talking about, really lead me to probably what I really want to talk about is that, are we really living a physical life, or are we just observing our life through the use or borrowing of this human body and this mind and these experiences? And are we separate from ourselves? Are we the observer? Are we some part of a larger equation where we're individually contributing to the whole? Well, let's talk about that, right? Because if you look at a sea or a body of ocean or body of water, everything that's in that ocean is made up of individual drops of water. Although they are separate in some ways, they are not separate from the equation or separate from the whole. They are part of the bigger equation. And so maybe we are the same. Maybe we are simply drops in the ultimate and endless and infinite consciousness that is out there somewhere. And we are just some minute part of that contributes to the whole, separate in some ways with our experiences, because everybody we know has different experiences. But we are in many ways probably not an individual per se, but an individual in some ways. I know that makes it difficult to describe. We may not be who we think we are. Because, if you think about it in another way, let's go back to the brain and the mind and the memories and the RAM and the disks and the consciousness, subconscious, all that. What we experience, or what we feel like we experience through our eyes and through our life and our trajectory forward from birth to death, all really gets compiled and happens within our skulls. We are pulling in all types of information at a very, very quick and rapid pace through what we would know as our five senses. But I do believe it's a much more than that. I believe that we're getting information way beyond all that. However, all of that information, data, bits, ones and zeros, are all jammed into our brain, into our minds, to our consciousness, and it is compiled and put together to provide us an experience that we call life. Now, is that really life? I feel like it's life. I feel like everything's real. I feel like I am real, but am I really? If I look in the mirror, is that really a reflection of me? Or is that a reflection of what my brain says is me? But is that really me? I guess there are some proofs, per se. When somebody takes a picture of me on their phone and I'm not looking in the mirror, it still looks like what I'm looking at in the mirror. So whatever it is that's projecting as me is pretty cool, right? Am I really real? Am I a real person? I'd like to think so, but maybe we're not. I have seen in many times through meditation anyway, not proof. Guys, here I'm not talking about things that I can prove necessarily, and just kind of ideas, my experiences of others. So take this with a grain of salt, and if it's interesting to you, go do your own research. But I have seen the infinity, or the infiniteness, is that a word? The infinity that's out there. I can't even describe it. Well, seeing what I would consider infinity, or the never-ending existence, is hard to describe anyway. You can see I was struggling with trying to put those words together. Infinity is really interesting because, to me, if that's real, if everything that we know or everything that exists in some shape or form exists for all time, and it always exists and it's always existed, what does that say about us? Do we always exist? Have we always existed? Will we continue to exist? And will we know who we are if we continue to exist? Well, the memories we have and the experiences we have now be stored in some database. Will they be accessible to us in another life, in another experience, where we can go, hey, I know that these memories are in the recesses of my hard drive somewhere, or a hard drive somewhere that's stored across infinity, that I can access, that I can then draw my experiences from and use them in other lives. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about, because we talk about the Akashic records, and other people or religions and philosophers have a different term for the Akashic records, but basically a database of every thought, feeling, experience, blink of an eye, everything that we have done or thought or felt is recorded in this Akashic Records database. Now, many of us use that to access information, to look at experiences from other times, past or present, and some of us do it for others. I don't do it for others. I think it's kind of cool to do it myself. It's like peering into the library of you, or at least you as you imagine you. I don't believe that anything we do, think, feel at all goes away, and it's always stored somewhere. Where that somewhere is, you can call it whatever you want. But the thing is that I believe our existence is not in vain. I do believe that even if we come here and things in our life are more predetermined than undetermined, which is possible, because if the future can be seen, then the future must exist. We're here to have an experience. We're here to experience what we chose or what others have chosen for us. And I think that even if there is some type of deterministic approach to our life, I don't think that changes the fact that we cannot try and become and do things beyond what we think are capable. Why don't we step outside of our normal bounds, do more than just be a cog in the wheel, go to work, come home, pay your taxes? There's got to be more than that. And granted, that's what's in front of us most of the time, right? I mean, let's just face it, at least in America here, everything we do or have or want is taxed in some way, shape, or form. And of course, taxes do help support our communities and some of the things we take for granted, like calling 911. There should be somebody showing up at your door for help. Police might show up, ambulance might show up. Yes, Taxes are important to pay. But my point is that I think that life is what we would like it to be. Can we become anything we want? I'd like to think we can. But I think in many ways, when we think we're manifesting something, are we really manifesting that? Are we finally coming into agreement or entrainment? We're entraining to what it is we're supposed to be doing anyway. We just figure it out, we agree with it, and it happens. I don't know. I've asked that of my spirit guides before, and they said that, yes, you're manifesting it, but yes, you're also agreeing with the timeline. So I don't know which one is right. Probably both, right? I do think that we're allowed to go out on the ledge, try things that are not for us, just so we know that when the thing that comes for us shows up, that we are absolutely grateful and we are in alignment and entrainment with that. I do believe that we do need to get off of our butts, do a little bit more with life. Because I was listening to a lot of CIA stuff recently. I got on some weird algorithm on TikTok and in all these ways of creating psychological operations for the public. But one of them said something that just really struck me. He says, the governments don't care if you riot. They don't care if you march up and down the streets. They don't care about any of that. As long as you got a job and you are working, you are paying taxes, that supports the machine that is rolling, the political machine. I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That, rioting, sure. I mean, if there's injustices, we should try to rally attention to those. But in essence, I don't think the powers that be really care. Why aren't we caring for ourselves? Why aren't we figuring out how we're going to get through this experience and get the absolute most out of it that we can? Because if we are all possibilities wound up into this human body, that means there's a lot of possibilities that we are leaving unattended. I think we should pay attention to that. I think we should listen to our intuition. I think we should put some effort into trying something different, doing something fun, doing something cool, something that stretches us. Why not? We're here against tremendous odds, and we are so complex that it's hard to imagine that you ever became you. I mean, the numbers are astounding. And we are going through life, most of us, and I find myself in that trap sometimes, as we're going through life, just going to work, coming home, going to the gym, doing this, doing that, same old routine, but we're not doing anything that's different. We're not challenging ourselves. We're not doing something that really puts us in a space that it creates discomfort, and discomfort is where growth happens. So we really do, in my opinion, need to try many things. Why not? Right? I'm not saying go out and do illegal or immoral things just because it's an experience. I'm not saying that. I'm saying to go out and do things and stretch yourself for the good of all mankind. Because in another meditation that I had a while back, probably a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, my angel guide reminded me that I needed to continue to use my voice to share, to talk to people, to put out information, and that is what I'm supposed to be doing. That is my mission. That's why I'm behind this mic doing this now. But she said something in there that I've known for a while, but it just kind of hit home a little harder. She said that everything we think and speak and do reverberates across the entirety of infinity. Everything we think, speak, and do affects everything that exists. And she charged me with getting out here and saying the things that should be said. Now, is everything I'm saying right on the money? Not necessarily. Like I said, I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here to talk about ideas and thoughts and things that might get you thinking and moving along a different track. And I talk to a lot of people. I work with a lot of people. And I do a lot of research. And so why not share it? I hope this is not all over the place and it's not making any sense. But I think starting with what I started with, in training to the energy that you need, in training and aligning yourself and your life with the possibilities and the things that you should be doing, in training your life for your life's purpose. And yes, I do believe that your life's purpose is what you make it to be. Is there some things that are hard lined into your life? I'm sure there is. But along the way, there's a lot of little detours you can take. It aids in your purpose. It aids in your growth. Align and entrain with who you are, who you're supposed to be, where you're supposed to be going, and what you're supposed to be doing. I challenge you, and I challenge you to do the most with you in your life. All right, I shall get off my soapbox now. Hey, take a minute, pop over to my website, take a look around, and you get a chance, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. There's a lot of interesting things on there. I do services. My wife does products. I really look forward to working with you, hearing from you, because when I work with people, I learn, they learn, everybody learns, and it is the equation for growth. We must learn from each other because there's no way I can know everything. There's no way you could know everything. If we gather together and we share our experiences and our energy, we can become more entrained with who we are and our purpose. Stay strong and live your life.